It is the young people that give culture to the country. If it's going to continue being in the same political state, the country will not have its culture, will not have its life left anymore, because people are going to leave and some of them won't look back.
Regularly spoken about for their sensitivity and social media use, this generation of young people had a childhood through a recession and their late teens lived through a pandemic. They look towards their climate-endangered future with fellow Gen Z activist Greta Thunberg at the helm. Many young Irish people are following suit, working to organise a creative and collective future through their own activism. Instead of wondering, are the kids all right? Why don't we just ask them?
Ireland now is very different compared to when I first moved here. Ireland now is, in a way, it has gotten worse. Expenses have gone high up, rent is extortionate. There are students, international students especially, that are homeless, sleeping on streets, in cars, buying an old car and sleeping in that, and it's just ridiculous, the fact that we come here to learn, to get a degree, to get a job, but with everything that is happening right now, it really closes off all the avenues.
I think we're suffering from a lot of the positions that the older generations have taken. Issues such as the cost of living, which is prominent now, but which has always been an issue for students with regards to student accommodation, and the barriers to accessing education in the first place, third level education, with just exorbitant fees that young people are paying. I think all of this really plagues the day-to-day activities of a lot of young people, and it encourages the spirit of emigration amongst young people, which is quite tragic, because I know this is an involuntary choice for so many young people who speak of leaving Ireland. So I think there are barriers of this sort that really make being in Ireland a difficult option for young people when they see other progressive, prosperous European countries just doing things better.
4 in 10 Irish young people worry that life will not improve for them within the next 5 years. They live in an expensive country, during a pandemic, during a climate crisis, all with a smartphone in their hands. Among so many other barriers, why fight for change? The road to building a movement is a long one, and the fight for achieving the momentum needed to push through referenda or policy change is an even longer one.
There is a real sense of a generational inequality in Ireland. My sense is that there is frustration or an anger at the inflexibility of policy to respond to what is very clearly kind of a generational crisis. Because many of the young people that I interviewed, they wanted to ensure that other young people didn't experience what they experienced growing up. This sense of discrimination, or this sense that they weren't welcome in Ireland.
We're dealing with the post-recession kind of generation here, the people who were old enough when the recession hit to understand what it was when it happened. So I was 8 years old when that happened, and then I was 18 years old when that theoretically ended. When you become conscious of politics as a youth, that entire situation for me was informed by the recession, and I mean, that's going to give you some level of cynicism, I'm not going to lie. Those are the circumstances that I'm from.
I grew up in Northern Ireland, and it's very easy, when you grow up with things just being the way things are, and Fianna Gael and Fianna Fáil just being in power, you're like, okay, that's it, that's the way it's always going to be. It's hard to reimagine what life could look like otherwise.
As somebody who came from a country that criminalizes same-sex relationships and all those hardships that I've gone through. So that inspires me, it motivates me to, speak up for the voiceless, per se, the ones who are not able to speak or still are closeted but are going through difficulties. As much as I'm doing my activism, it's also a form of healing. There's no way you can progress if you're still holding on to some sort of pain.
They are young people demanding change in Ireland before it drives them out. The cost of education, of living, of housing, of having the time to be a young person in the country you were born in a country that is battling between its past and present, being a closed off space and one that is open, accepting and welcoming. There seems to be a disconnect between the Ireland that the wider world sees and the Ireland that is seen by its young people.
There is a significant power in experiencing something that creates a kind of a fury or a spark within us. Balance that, there has to be sort of a sense of hope. Participation without a sense that something can be achieved and that a cause is futile is impossible, at least in my view.
Do you have hope for the future?
Yes, but it's very hard to.
Whew.
Big time. The fact that Ireland has had to overcome oppression and strive towards freedom time and again, I think this means that we can empathise with communities that might deal with disadvantages. I think the tables are turning.
If you're fighting for something, you also need to make sure that you have hope in your hearts, because it is only hope that can really help you move forward.
I suppose more than anything, again, like I am not motivated by hope. My hopes and dreams can take a second seat to addressing the issues that are there.
I have hope for the future because I have met a lot of people that came here over 20 years ago. They have kids here, gave birth here to their kids, and if you hear the stories 20 years ago, the country was different. People are making progress and they are looking forward to a better future for everybody.
This year marks 100 years of Irish independence. In the grand scheme of things, a young country with young people who are not content with the ways of old. The kids may be alright, but for how long more?